mean, I'm still up. You guys still up? 9:33 Eastern here on the East Coast. Good to be back with you guys. Been a long day. Week 2 of this NFL season in the books. I guess not quite yet. Sunday Night Football on as we speak. Monday Night Football still to come. But for the Ravens' purposes, Week 2 in the books. 1-1, 41-17. Convincing win. First play in AFC North. And, of course, a much-needed bounce-back victory after what took place last weekend in Buffalo. Ravens, of course, get ready for the Detroit Lions coming up on Monday Night Football. That game will be played in Baltimore. And here's what I got coming up over the course of the next hour or so, beginning with final takeaways. Not in that order, but I will give you final takeaways from Ravens, Browns, other content that has leaked in here in the last couple hours or so since Sarah and I finished up our post-game live stream. Joe Burrow's big blow for Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll start there in just a second. Ryan Clark gets after Cleveland, really torches the Browns for all the talking that they did leading up to this game. And ultimately Baltimore's last laugh, because that's what it was all about in week 2. So if you could on the way in, like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member or gift giving membership. You guys know the drill. Appreciate you for being here on this late night action, 9:35. We're off and running. Glad you guys can be here. Joe Burrow left in the second quarter of today's game against Jacksonville. And Adam Schefter of ESPN noting a short while ago that images of Joe Burrow's turf toe injury are being sent to noted foot specialist Dr. Robert Anderson to be reviewed. If the surgery is deemed necessary, it would be expected to sideline Burrow 3 months. He was in a walking boot and on crutches after today's game. So, obviously, this is significant for Cincinnati. They did go on to win today, by the way, after Joe Burrow exited the game, obviously did not return. Jake Browning, one of the more capable backup quarterbacks in the league, who's got a fair amount of reps in Cincinnati in Joe Burrow's absence in the past, came in and led him to victory. He threw 3 picks, but 2 touchdowns, played well enough for the Bengals to win the game over Jacksonville. And if you're a Jaguars fan right now, I don't know how you're not just completely at a loss for words trying to make sense of the fact that Burrow leaves the game halfway through the second quarter. You're up by a touchdown and you end up losing the game. I mean, talk about, that's just gutting for Jacksonville. But as far as Joe is concerned here, here's another report from Ian Rappaport of NFL Network. He says that Burrow's feared to have suffered a grade 3 turf toe injury. And again, that same timeline that Schefter had, which would require surgery and put him out at least the next 3 months. Okay, so it's mid-September. That would put him out, what? October would be 1, November would be 2, midway through December would be 3, and perhaps that's putting it, optimistically. So mid-December could very well be Joe Burrow's timeline. And if you go ahead and look at the Ravens' schedule, you know that they don't see the Bengals. They're not scheduled to see the Bengals until Thanksgiving night. That's Thursday, November 27th. They'll then play Cincinnati twice within a 3-week time span. The next would come 3 months from today, matter of fact, December 14th. So, assuming that these reports are on par with what Burrow's dealing with, the Ravens may have a chance that they'll be seeing Cincinnati late in the season, pivotal implications on the AFC North and seeding and whatnot without Joe Burrow under center. And obviously, if you're a fan, just looking at this, from a competitive spirit standpoint, you hate to see this, that the Bengals could potentially not be at full strength, not only for the next 3 months, but for when the Ravens see them first and foremost, which will be coming up on Thanksgiving night. That game will be played in Baltimore, and then 2 weeks later, they'll turn around and play those same Cincinnati Bengals on the road December 14th. And the team that's in between the two of them will be Pittsburgh. So if anything, look, you want to look at this from a Ravens advantageous standpoint, the fact that they could be seeing a lesser Bengals team twice within a 3-week period that either has Joe Burrow just returning from injury, maybe the second time around they play, and or no Joe Burrow, either one of those games, with how difficult and backloaded this schedule is in terms of strength of schedule, that could be really advantageous for a Ravens team that'll be wrapping up its season, trying to put the finishing touches on hopefully securing an AFC North and the highest seeding, as possible, obviously. So there you go. Yes, I know, Oceans. Lamar has owned the head-to-head in terms of his matchups with Joe Burrow over the years. But the reality is they're still a tough out. They were a tough out last year. Both times the Ravens played them, one of which went to overtime, and they can put up points with anybody. So Jake Browning, again, will keep them competitive for 3 months. I don't know. This is a tough schedule. They were set up by the NFL, really not set up by the NFL, but the NFL set them up nicely based on how the schedule unfolded this year to sit pretty after 2 weeks. And they do. They're 2-0. They're atop the division after beating Cleveland. Really, the Browns beat themselves, but they beat Cleveland week 1. They beat Jacksonville today, but it does not get any easier from now, really over the next month. They'll go to Minnesota next weekend. They'll go to Denver on Monday night a couple weeks from now. They'll then host Detroit on the road at Green Bay, then the Steelers, and then a couple soft weeks going into the bye week, which is bye week 10 for them. They'll have the Jets and then the Bears going into their bye week. So anyway, continue to watch this. We'll monitor this on Joe Burrow, but it sure looks like he's going to be looking at a pretty hefty timeline in front of him with no game availability because of that turf toe. Potentially grade 3 turf toe. It's going to require surgery, and it's going to look at a recovery timeline of potentially 3 months for the Bengals quarterback. So with that, that's the way we start. Now let's get to more football content, more content in the aftermath of, not that wasn't football content, but you guys know what I mean. It's 9:40. It's late. Ryan Clark torched the Browns for all the talking that they did this week leading up to this Ravens game, manufacturing perhaps a little bit of content to try and get themselves up, if you will, motivationally wise, going into this Ravens game. And here's Ryan Clark with Cam Newton after the game.
Legendary basketball trainer, and Stephen A. knows this man, Tim Grover, he wrote a book called Relentless. And in that book, he said, the price of talk never goes up. It's always free, and you get what you pay for. They just talking. And not only are they just talking, they are full of crap. I don't care how well you think you played against the Cincinnati Bengals. You know who Derrick Henry is. You know the man that has 108 touchdowns. You know the man that has 11,600 yards. And see what people do, right, whose play has earned them the right to respect, whose play has earned them the right to feel like a league success. You ain't got to tell nobody. When Derrick Henry was asked, yes, this man that's going to be a future Hall of Famer, about what the coach said, about what Grant Delpit said, what did Derrick Henry say? He said, we'll see you on Sunday. Why? Because that's when the game is played. And throughout Derrick Henry's career, when the game has been played, Derrick Henry has not only shown up, but he's shown out. And so when you think about the secondary and Jerry Jeudy, right? They don't pose a threat, or they don't have anything back there. Jerry Jeudy made his first Pro Bowl last year. Jerry Jeudy's a first-round pick who is incredibly talented. On the other side, they got Kyle Hamilton, who's the highest-paid safety in the league. They got Marlon Humphrey, who is an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. They got Nate Wiggins, who's a first-round draft pick. You have Malachi Starks, who's a first-round draft pick. Sometimes this game is about respect, and it's about being able to say that based on my play, I don't need to talk, because when you cut the film on, you know who I'm going to be. The Baltimore Ravens don't have to whistle by the graveyard because they are the reapers. And Cleveland Browns may have talked themselves into finding out this week.
Some strong words there from Ryan Clark in response to a lot of the chatter that came out of Cleveland's locker room this week. We know it, right? Grant Delpit saying it's not hard to tackle Derrick Henry. And quite frankly, they stood on that today, but they sold out to stop the run. And at what cost? Well, it cost them the game, because while they shut down the Ravens' rushing attack, particularly Derrick Henry, and as a team, they held them to just 45 yards. At what cost? The cost was forfeiting the game, essentially, because Lamar beat them through the air. The Ravens' defense showed up, as did their special teams, outside of Tyler Loop dealing with some landing zone issues. We'll get to that when we talk about special teams as a whole in just a bit. So again, They stood on business when it comes to keeping Derrick Henry at ease or keeping him under control, but it came at a cost, and a big one. So much so, Cleveland now looks at 0-2. They're last in this AFC North division through 2 weeks. What about Jerry Jeudy? You heard Ryan Clark talk about him specifically, saying that there are no challenges dealing with this Ravens secondary. And he is super talented. I'll add on to what Ryan Clark had to say. He's coming off a 1,200-yard receiving season and a Pro Bowl caliber one at that. Ravens kept him at bay today. 4 receptions, 51 yards, an average of 12.8. He had 8 targets. He did have a drop in there. Nothing crazy. He had a team-high 51 receiving yards, 4 receptions, like I mentioned, for the Cleveland Browns. But to sit here and say that he got the last laugh would be inaccurate. And you see Ryan summed up that clip that I just shared with you in his tweet. And he said the saying goes, quote, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. The Browns didn't heed that warning and gave the Ravens bulletin board material all week. Whether it was at the defense, Derrick Henry, or Lamar Jackson, the Browns had no respect. So the Ravens walked into the stadium to demand it today. Told you they would. Best roster in football. Myles Garrett postgame.
Embarrassing. And we got to be better on defense. We got to be better as a team. They slowly chipped away. We did a solid job, holding it to 3 when we could, and then eventually, the dam broke, and then they just did whatever they wanted, and we have to continue to play a 60-minute game.
Miles, how hard is it?
It certainly wasn't your fault, Myles, whatsoever. He was in game wrecker mode, particularly early, just given the Ravens' offensive line fits. And let's be clear, the Ravens really struggled in the trenches warfare, that battle in the trenches early on in this game. Myles Garrett was just a force to be reckoned with. 5 total tackles. I can't wait to see the pressure numbers that he finished with, 2 of which were solo. He had a sack and a half, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. Okay, Myles is a problem. He's also prideful. He said and did all the right things leading up to this game, right? Said talk is cheap, referring to, without actually saying their names, his teammates. He doesn't get involved in any of that extracurricular stuff. He's too prideful. He's too talented, and he understands. He's got too level of a high IQ, both from a football perspective and also how to handle himself in the media. And he got up there and said, look, this shit's embarrassing. They slowly chipped away. Eventually the dam broke, and they just did whatever they wanted, which is true. Man, I know he's got absolutely nothing to complain about in the grand scheme of life because they made him the highest paid player, a defensive player that is, this offseason. And I think TJ Watt then ended up getting a deal after that and so on and so forth. So he's been paid handsomely, and there's bigger things that's wrong in like the grand scheme of things. But Myles Garrett is playing for a losing franchise. And it's a damn shame that somebody that talented, somebody that generational, and that big of a force isn't going to be contending for the January postseason. Here's what he had to say leading up to this week. Again, sort of on some of the conversations that were being had and the quotes that came out of his locker room from his teammates.
Comments about tackling Derrick Henry not being difficult or challenging.
We got to go out there and prove it. Talk is cheap. I mean, he's a hell of a player. He's a Hall of Fame talent. But, got to go out there and have our guys back. So, we're going to support him the best way we can, and that's by, slowing him down and stopping the run game and nullifying, their best talents as best as we can.
That was pregame. You already heard from him postgame. And speaking of postgame, Roquan Smith on some of the noise coming from Cleveland. This right here is Ro's last laugh.
At the end of the day, people talk. That's why people have mouths, for the ones that can talk. And, that's what he chose to say with his mouth. And, hey, at the end of the day, it's about what you do on the field. It's not about talking. Talking don't win you anything. It's about how you come out and play. So hats off to him for having this opinion. This is America, freedom of speech.
Ha! That's what he chose to say with his mouth. Somewhere out there, it's a pause, 30-second timeout on the floor, and I'll take a full time after that for good measure. But you heard the man. Quote, that's what he chose to say with his mouth. At the end of the day, it's about what you do on the field. Talking don't win you anything. It's about how you come out and play. Hats off to him for having his opinion. This is America. freedom of speech after Roquan's perhaps best game as a Baltimore Raven, dare I say. The guy was unbelievable. Tez Walker with a hilarious quote post-game on Roro.
It was 100%. I looked up like, that's Rowe. Like, I'm thinking that's, a safety or a corner. He was moving on that. That's one of the fastest I've seen him move since I've been here. So it was fun to watch.
Yes, it was, boy. And Roquan, man, looked like his 2023 self. And I got the numbers somewhere around here. Here they are, 15 tackles, 9 of which were solo, 3 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits, 1 scoop and score, and took that thing 64 yards after the Tavius Robinson strip sack. Roquan looked like his old self. And that's exactly what, if you're a Ravens fan, what you want to see halfway through September. Early on in the season, Teddy Buchanan, of course, got the start, played a lot. We'll wait for the snap count to come out overnight and analyze that just to see what Teddy got compared to Trenton Simpson. But he was out there for at least the first 4 defensive possessions. And I thought Teddy, as I've been saying all summer long, getting dragged because of it, right? Where you at, Evan? Teddy Buchanan belongs out there. And when he was wearing the green dot communication device throughout preseason, I know it wasn't a perfect preseason for him. Matter of fact, there were a couple games, or at least one game, that I felt like, okay, he left some to be desired out there. But clearly they saw something in him. He was a day 3 pick out of Cal. And Trenton Simpson, much like he did this time last year, leaves the door open for his competition. And perhaps Teddy's going to have a chance to shut that door in the coming weeks. He looks like he belongs. He's not as physically gifted, particularly sideline to sideline, right? He doesn't have the speed that Trenton Simpson presents. But Teddy Buchanan, he makes up for it with his football IQ, his tenacity, his toughness, right? How well studied he is. Sarah and I had a chance, obviously, to get to know him personally when he came on the vault earlier this offseason. I really like what I see from Teddy Buchanan, and I'm excited about him. Remember, he only spent 1 year at Cal last year. He was a UC Davis transfer. And so this is a player that has got an edge to him. He's playing, what the hell? What do you have to lose? Absolutely nothing. And so as I look at some of my takeaways, and I tweeted this out after the game, if you guys haven't already done so, would love for you to follow the Twitter. I'm trying to be more consistent in the Twitter space. Would love for you to give me a follow this in season, this time of year. We're doing a lot in that space. And then obviously everything we do on YouTube is just like an extension of that. But I just dropped my link specifically into the live chat if you want to throw a follow. It's at Bobby Baltimore. And I'll just read, and then I'll get into it more of what I mean, kind of bullet point by bullet point. Guys, this is a day where Cleveland, again, sold out to stop the Ravens' rushing attack. Okay? And they successfully did that. But as I've mentioned a couple times now, it came at a cost. 45 total team rushing yards. 2.1 per carry. That's unheard of for a Ravens team. And yet they still put out 41 points. Technically 34 by the offense because Roquan Smith had himself a nice little house call there after the Tavius Robinson strip sack. So 34 points on a day where you average 2.1 per carry. You're getting outmanned and outperformed in the trenches by Myles Garrett and company throughout much of that first half, and you're still able to muster up 34 points. Like, I get it. Special teams was involved here, and I went on to note that in this, right? Jay Kummel's blocked punt, the special teams ace, Chris Board's replacement, if you will, that they brought in early in free agency back in March. Awesome blocked punt. I'll have a photo of him in just a second. Really want to show him a little bit of love. The Nate Wiggins interception, right? Turnovers. They won the turnover battle. And to me, this defense deserves a little bit of praise coming off this one because they bounced back accordingly. Granted, this is not a high-powered offense they were going up against. You always need to make sure to make that clear. But this was a solid performance by the Ravens defensive attack. Forced 2 turnovers. Of course, an interception by Nate Wiggins, the aforementioned Tavius Robinson strip sack. And so you got great contributions on multiple levels of this defense, setting the Ravens offense up for what became obviously a slow start out of the gate. Right? They were being stifled out of the gate. Just couldn't move the ball. Lamar was actually, and this won't be talked about much, I'll get to some of his numbers in a little bit. He was stellar today, but he didn't look himself early on. Some errant throws, some overthrows. Looked like he was a little uncomfortable at times. Yet he still finished his 19 of 29, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers, most importantly. So, again, on a day where, offensively speaking, they were pretty lackluster early, to finish with the output that they did, it's a win. That's a win in more ways than one. How about Jake Hummel here? Boy, he roughed up the punter too for Cleveland, didn't he? Look at Jake knife through this line and get a hand on that football. Sanusi Kane on the right-hand side comes flying over to recover it. 21 looks good out there, doesn't he? He's fun to watch. Special teams guru. A former 7th-round pick out of Purdue, second-year player at the safety position. These photos are courtesy of Ken Lamb from the Baltimore Sun, as tweeted out and shared by Sam Cohn. So well done. Now, with all that said, Tyler Loop's got to clean a few things up, special teams-wise. He converted today, hit all of his kicks, both field goals and extra points, but Tyler's struggling with the landing zone, right? 3 times in the first 2 weeks, he's given the opponent the ball at the 40 because of penalty. The whole new dynamic kickoff is something that he's still trying to, I think, grasp, being that hasn't been the case in college. And so with short fields like that, Joe Flacco and the Browns aren't going to kill you and take advantage of that. But Detroit will on Monday night. Kansas City will in a couple weeks. And more formidable opponents certainly will. So that's got to get cleaned up from a special teams perspective. But give him time, and shout out to Steve Loop, his father. Tyler's father, Steve Loop, is a part of our Discord community. He totally joined randomly the other day. He's been checking in on live streams. Seems like an awesome guy. I know he was in attendance today. He made the trip to Buffalo last week. So congratulations to the Loop family on Tyler's first couple weeks. He's been kicking the ball very well. We just got to get a couple of those small procedural things under his belt. I'm sure Randy Brown and company are all over that for him this upcoming week. Guys, this episode is brought to you by my friends at ProfitX. It's America's #1 sports prediction market, and these guys are going to be sponsoring the program all season long, and I'm very appreciative of their support. They're going to be my go-to for year-long plays and player props. You win real money predicting sports in 40-plus states. I just got off the wait list for a 6 a.m.er tomorrow. That's going to be a problem. 6 a.m. lower body sweat at my new gym in St. Pete. Son of a bitch. It's 8 hours from now. And I'm not even halfway through this live stream yet. Anyway, you'll get better odds than traditional sports books because you're playing against others, not the house. With ProfitX, you can request your own odds, play with confidence, and get super fast payouts straight to your bank, card, or even crypto. And right now, if you sign up at ProfitX.co and you use the promo code BobbyB, you'll get up to $200 in profit cash on all your plays for your first 30 days. So go ahead, consider signing up now at ProfitX.co. It'll support the channel. You'll have a little bit of fun yourself as well. You can start winning real money predicting sports. Terms and conditions do apply. And again, if you click the link that I have included in the show notes, or just by simply visiting ProfitX.co, it'll take you, and I'll show you right now, it'll take you to this website right here. And there is just information overload here. There's live opportunities for you player prop wise. There's a game going on literally as we speak right now in Minnesota. It's the Falcons and Vikings. So you can take a look at what this has to offer if you're interested in doing so. And I don't know, do we want to look ahead too? Have they updated it yet? Probably not. So anyway, ProfitX.co. Go check them out if you haven't already done so. And I want to say thank you to them for the continued support. And as a reminder, use promo code BobbyB. That's BOBBYB. You'll get up to $200 in profit cash on all your plays for your first 30 days. Thanks to a couple super chats that have come in so far tonight. And thanks for spending some time with me late night, guys. Tongsley writes, keep up the good work, Bobby. Tongsley's always generous with her super chats. Appreciate you for being here, my friend. Hope you're having a great night yourself. What up, Tone? What's your concern level for the O-line, Bobby? minor concern right now. I think there's bigger issues on this team. I'm not just going to sit here and say that I think, all the defensive woes that we spent all week talking about don't still exist. Kyle Van Noy going down with a hamstring issue is something to watch. Jadeveon Clowney's been signed by the Cowboys, so that option no longer exists. That feels like a little bit of a miss given the figures, the minor figures, small figures, fair figures that Dallas brought him in for. Look, it's still in my mind how limited of a four-man pressure they had. They couldn't get home with 4 against Bills. And of course, Bills offensive line is stellar, probably a top 5 unit in the entire league. But when you have 77 that, is serviceable 75% of the time, but 25%, it looks like he doesn't even belong on this field. It's tough. It's tough. Lamar will continue to minimize the weaknesses. I think Rosengarten is having a relatively slow start to the year. I'll wait for Cole Jackson's offensive line analysis coming up on Tuesday night on the Collective. But I think there's bigger concerns. I still am not fully entrusting of special teams, and I'm still not fully sold on all 3 levels meshing, cohesively and seamlessly up and down Zach Orr's defense. And I'm not sold yet on their ability to close out games. This is a Cleveland Browns team that's going to be a top 5 drafting team come April. Can we agree? So while this is a great win and it's an AFC North win and the defense played great, Roquan had the game of the year for himself, solid contributions from special teams. I'm just like, I just feel like we need to take it what it is. And just as you would with a win or a loss, you flush it after 24 hours. Like, this to me needs to be flushed by this time tomorrow night, and you move on because you got Detroit and Kansas City back-to-back weeks. It's not getting any easier for the Ravens whatsoever. You got Detroit Monday Night Football. Fun fact, I will be there sitting club level thanks to my guy Jason, who I met in Vegas a couple weeks ago. And I will be going to my first Ravens game as an actual spectator outside of a press box setting on U.S. soil. The only other game that I've been to in a non-press box setting for the Ravens is the London Titans game several years ago. So I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys out there at the bank. But Kansas City awaits after Detroit, and that's at Arrowhead, then the Texans, then the Rams, and then the bye week. It doesn't get any easier from right now. So I'm not yet going to point the finger specifically at the offensive line as the Achilles heel of this team. Not quite yet. Evan says D-Hop goated in week 2. We're getting to DeAndre Hopkins in just a bit. Evan literally texts me every single game so far this year, which I know is only 2 weeks, but it feels like it's more than that, because every time DeAndre makes a play, and he's made some incredible plays so far, some highlight reel worthy plays for the Ravens. Evan texts me about my needle moving content, and I should say comment, from earlier in the offseason after the acquisition. And I will get there in just a bit. I'm going to stand by that comment for now, and I'll tell you why. And it has nothing, that there is in no way, right, am I downplaying the significance of what DeAndre's put on tape. But I will revisit my needle moving comment in just a couple minutes. Thanks to all 900 plus of you for joining me concurrently right now. Like the video if you could. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member. Gift-giving membership. If you're in the Twitter space, would love for you to pop on over and support in the YouTube space. Well, I mentioned this at the top, and I want to get back to it because Lamar's arm was as much a part of this win as special teams was and as the defense was, and so on and so forth. It was a great passing day through the air from a vertical standpoint for Lamar if you take out the first quarter and maybe parts of the second quarter. This is a quarterback that can beat you in a variety of ways. And when you look at where he stacks up historically in terms of pass rating, this is generational stuff. He is the all-time leader in NFL history in passer rating right now. 102.648. NFL on CBS credits this. He also has the most rushing yards, as he broke last year Michael Vick's record for a quarterback. On a day where Lamar was far from his best, it's important to remember the type of history that we're watching on what seems like a week in and week out basis for Lamar. Let's go Digger. Excuse me. Digger. What is Digger? Digger Phelps? That's a D, by the way. It's a D. Let's go deeper. Excuse me. I love Digger Phelps, by the way. That's a legend right there. But that was a close one. Too close for comfort, matter of fact. Deeper. Let's go deeper. Let's go deeper into the numbers. Next gen stats. Good God. Flush it, Bobby, and go to bed or drink another Celsius and live to fight another day. Son of a bitch. All 4 of Lamar's touchdown passes targeted a receiver over 10 yards downfield against the Browns. Since the start of 2024, Lamar has thrown 32 touchdown passes over 10 air yards. That's 10 more than the next closest quarterback. Joe Burrow has got 22. And you take a look at the passing chart right there, 19 of 21, and I should say 29, 225 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, okay? This guy is surgical. You take him out of that, right? You take the first quarter out of it, and he's even more surgical than he already ended up finishing this game. How about on those 10-plus yard throws specifically? 8 of 13, 153 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, a passer rating of 142 flat. That's perfection for Lamar, damn near close to it on 10-plus yard throws. Did you guys see the concerted effort that they made when Denzel Ward, CB1 in Cleveland, went down? Cameron Mitchell came in. They started targeting him immediately. And one of my first half thoughts going into halftime was, you have got to test this team from a vertical passing attack standpoint if you want to win the game. And they did exactly that. And the beauty of it is, guys, when you look at the box score, I know you're having fun right now in the live chat, aren't you? Yes, you are. I almost gave you a lot more reason to have a lot more fun than you did. But on a day where, Mark Andrews finishes with just a catch for 2 receiving yards, right? And Rashad Bateman with a drop sprinkled in, one of his 4 targets, finishes with 2 receptions for 15 yards, right? Like, on a day where literally 2 of your biggest playmakers from last year, Mark and Rashad, who had 11 and 9 touchdowns respectively for them last year, like on a day where they're barely involved, at least directly in the game plan, offensively speaking, and yet you still put up 41 points, 7 of which were defensively, right, with Roquan's house call. I mean, that's an embarrassment of riches. Mark's off to a very slow start statistically, much like he was last year. Same thing for Rashad. But yet, it's back-to-back weeks of a 40-burger. Like, this is a beautiful time to be a Baltimore Raven. Maybe not to be a Baltimore Ravens pass catcher, because you got to be patient and you got to be selfless like a lot of these guys are. But Todd Monken's going to ensure to the best of his ability that he does everything within his power to keep guys involved, to keep guys engaged, and he will continue to spread the love around if he knows what's good for him. And I'm sure he does, based on what he did in that category last year. Just to reiterate, look at the first half statistics. I mean, come on. The Ravens had a 10-3 lead at the half. It was one of the ugliest AFC North games you could ever ask for. 67 passing yards, 14 rushing yards, 81 total. They were averaging 3 yards per play. They were 2 for 8 on third down. I'm thinking to myself, like, here we go again. This is the formula for how to get the result that you got in week 8 of last year when you lost to Jameis Winston and company 29-24. There was 11 combined punts in the first half alone. And yet the Ravens, who got the ball coming out of the half, came out guns blazing. And so I got to give Todd Monken a lot of credit. He was not great in the first half. They made a concerted effort to air that thing out in the second half, and it paid dividends for them. No doubt about it. And let's give a little bit of love to the second-year player out of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Tez Walker, man. 3 career receptions, 3 career touchdowns, and 2 of them came today. The other came against the New York Giants last year. Number 81 looks fun out there. He showed off that 4.36 speed today. Devontae finished with 2 receptions for 26 yards. So a light day overall productivity-wise, but anything but in terms of what he did towards the score sheet. 2 touchdowns on 2 targets. And that 4.36 speed was on full display. I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's getting involved. We'll see if that continues throughout the year. But for a player that a year ago, right around now, was inactive, healthy scratch on game day as a rookie, for him now to be involved in the game plan in week 2, excited for him. Very excited for him. And what he and DeAndre Hopkins have started to piece together now with this ability to sort of compete for wide receiver 3/4 reps and touches more than replaces what Nelson Aguilar, love the guy, but more than replaces what Nelson Aguilar gave them the last couple of years at wide receiver 3, if you will. Number 84 is Zaire Mitchell-Payton. He continues to get involved. Not the best game for him, but he continues to be a willing blocker. He's a great blocker. Zaire Mitchell-Payton, number 84. You won't see much of him, I would think, after maybe next week. Isaiah Likely's got to be getting close. And maybe with the extra day this week leading into a Monday night game, they activate him for the first time this year. Remember, they did not designate him to injured reserve, meaning they think he's going to have a darn good chance to get back at some point within the first 4 weeks. So be on the lookout for an Isaiah Likely return in the near future. Pat Ricard's presence was missed and continues to be missed the first couple weeks of this season. He's dealing with a soft tissue calf setback. By the way, the Ravens just ended up averaging, in terms of yards per play today, 4.6, including 3 in the first half. So that number got a little bit better in the second half because they started to air it out. But Pat Ricard needs to be back in the fold because, quite honestly, they're just not going to be able to get to where they want to go without him. He's that important as a key cog for this offense. 33-year-old DeAndre Hopkins, a couple more highlight reel plays, just as he did with that one-handed snag that you might remember on Christian Benford in that Buffalo game. Unbelievable snag. You know, look, you could play him perfectly. Blanket that coverage, be with him stride for stride, attached to the hip, and yet DeAndre's somehow, some way, going to find a way to create, even if it's just an inch, what feels like barely anything in terms of separation. 2 receptions, 64 yards, a long of 41 right out of the half. His teammate, and somebody that absolutely looks up to him and grew up watching him, thought that 41-yarder right out of half that ended up being spotted down at the half-yard line. Devontae thought that shit was in the end zone.
It was 100% a touchdown, but it's surreal, seeing that. Like I said, I grew up seeing that. So, being a teammate of his, it means a lot to me. Even last week, I feel like when he got here, it didn't really hit me as much than last week. Walking out the tunnel with him, a guy that caliber, done it all in this league. Being able to look beside you and be like, dang, like that's my teammate. That's somebody I idolized growing up. So it's been great.
That's pretty cool right there from Tez to Nuke, and there he is, man. He's been tweeting out after every game too, like stuff like, the shrug emojis and other things, as if to say like, hey, keep calling me washed, and I'm going to keep proving you wrong. And just to comment quickly on sort of me and Evan's good-spirited back and forth debate that we've been having on this topic was, I said not long after the acquisition that I didn't think DeAndre was going to be needle moving. Okay. And I'm going to stand by that. And here's why. DeAndre has been exceptional. He's not the high volume guy that he once was. The Ravens aren't asking him to be the high volume guy that he once was, nor are they paying him to be. But he has been more than savvy, more than a good locker room presence. And with the limited opportunities that have come his way, he has more than delivered. Has he been a needle moving acquisition through 2 weeks? I think it's hard for me to say that. Until he single-handedly wins a game. I don't know how he can be needle moving. So I'm going to continue to stand by that while also giving him a whole lot of love because he is 33. He's still got it. And it's pretty fun to see him in a Ravens uniform. That highlight reel grab that he made on Benford in week 1 against the Bills will probably be a part of his tribute however many years from now when he's a first ballot Hall of Famer in Canton one day. And he's just got this knack that doesn't seem to ever really leave him or abandon him of creating separation and finding a window for a football that isn't even like specifically designed for a certain place. He just goes and gets it. He's got a surefire pair of hands that have caught however many receptions over his years. He's the active all-time leader in receiving yards, by the way, among all pass catchers that are in this league. And he's still doing it at a high level. So good for him. Good for the Ravens. Good for this wide receiver core. They're looking solid. And yes, Lamar Jackson's deep ball continues to be a threat as well. Well, Joe Flacco returned to Baltimore and didn't even make it 4 quarters. Not because of health, but because of the deficit that the Cleveland Browns faced. Dylan Gabriel came in relief in the 4th quarter, did throw his first touchdown as an NFLer. He is QB2, Shedeur Sanders, the emergency QB3. We talked about that at length earlier today on the pregame show. Apparently the Ravens were going to draft him 141st overall in the 5th round, and he denied them, which is just a whole nother story that Sarah and I had a good spirited debate on earlier tonight. Joe Flacco's final numbers, 25 of 45, $199 through the air, did throw 1 touchdown, intercepted by Nate Wiggins, sacked twice, quarterback rating 65 flat. He's 40 years old. It showed. Some of the decision-making, he was under duress. I felt like every other minute, Roquan Smith was in pursuit of Joe. He's not mobile, never really has been, still can sling it. Bottom line is, we get it, guys. This team's going to be drafting somewhere in the first 5 picks if I'm a betting man in April. And Joe Flacco is not going to start all 17 games. It would be totally unwise of the Browns to do so, especially when they're out of playoff contention. You need to evaluate what you have in your building in Dylan and in Shedeur and go from there and try and figure out what the hell you're going to do this upcoming offseason. This is not a Browns team that will be anything more than perhaps spoilers several months from now down the stretch when they're out of it. Mathematical, I would think, postseason contention. Awesome moment between then and now, captured by Ravens Productions here. It's Joe, it's Lamar, 2018 teammates. We all remember what happened. We all remember that storyline and how it's followed both players since. And more importantly, we know what Joe Flacco means to Baltimore. He's a Super Bowl MVP. He had his entire family at M&T Bank Stadium today, extended friends, family. The guy is beloved. You saw a bunch of 5 jerseys throughout the bank I saw online. It was the 30th anniversary celebration, of course, of the Ravens' inception as a franchise, and he's been a big part of that. He's a Super Bowl MVP. He's a great dude. He's somebody that bleeds Baltimore and is still playing at a National Football League level where he is a starter. He's not a starter for a playoff team, but he will win some games for them, I would think. Maybe not a bunch, and probably doesn't have too much of a leash moving forward before they need to see what they have in their rookie class. But I want to salute Joe Flacco for his class. I want to salute him for his longevity. I want to salute him for what he's accomplished throughout his career, what he means and will always mean to the Ravens organization. And I wish him the best moving forward. Really cool embrace there with Lamar. Here he is, courtesy of the Baltimore Sun, with team owner Steve Bisciotti, looking like a G pregame. There's then, there's now. Bisciotti with Lamar, Bisciotti with Joe. And of course, the great Dennis Pitta, friend of the show, joined Joe Flacco pregame. He wore the classic elite Joe Flacco shirt. That's freaking hilarious. And if you didn't catch this from pregame, here it is, all the feels if you guys want it. Now that the game is actually over, Joe embracing his family pregame. This was pretty cool. This is courtesy of the National Football League's Twitter account. How many kids does he have? 5 or 6? Because I count like 4 boys here and a girl. Is that correct? Mrs. Flacco right there as well. So all the best to him. Really cool moment for Joe pregame. Taking it in. First time at M&T Bank Stadium since, of course, his career in Baltimore came to an end. Not the first time that he's played the Ravens. We know that they obviously matched up last time in the Meadowlands when he was a New York Jet a couple of years ago. In terms of overall availability, injuries-wise, something to watch moving forward is Marlon Humphrey's groin. He left the game, did not return. Rasheen Ali was banged up on really the opening kickoff, so on special teams. So that's your RB3 special teams player that continues to get the edge over Keaton Mitchell, who was a healthy scratch today. So we'll have to see what Rasheen is dealing with related to concussion symptoms. Kyle Van Noy with a hamstring. He left the game, did not return. John Harbaugh noted post-game, none of these guys are going to be season enders, but being that Kyle's on the other side of 30, getting towards the latter half of his career, really on the back nine, if you will, it's something to watch closely. This I thought was hilarious, captured by CBS Sports. It's a tough day and a tough year and a tough lifetime to be a Cleveland Brown, isn't it? Quarterback purgatory, head coaching carousel, you name it. God bless you, Cleveland. Jadeveon Clowney is signing with the Cowboys. 1 year worth up to $6 million. That means it's probably a base value of like, I don't know, 2 or 3. This feels like a miss. Come on, Ravens. Like, of course, they didn't know Kyle was going to go down today, but this feels like somewhat of a miss, doesn't it? Jadeveon can still play at a high level. You got some questions in terms of your pass rush department. I don't know why they wouldn't have tried to bring him in, but what are you going to do? There you have it. Jadeveon Clowney going to the Dallas Cowboys. Somehow, they broke the Giants' hearts today. Russell Wilson, after playing a stellar game, it goes into overtime, and what are you going to do? He throws a freaking pick. Oh, man. You got to feel for the freaking New York Giants. Russ was awesome. Probably quieted the doubters a little bit, right, in terms of wanting Jackson Dart immediately. So that was a hell of a game that I got to watch a little bit of in between the end of the Ravens game and, of course, our post-game show. Dreams has hit us with a super chat. Shout out to Fub and Roger for the autographs post-game. Oh, that's dope. So Queon meeting up with Aeneas Peebles and Roger Rosengarten. Good for you, Queon. Hope to see you in a couple weeks for the Monday night game. Guys, if you haven't already done so, I would love for you to join the Bobby Baltimore Discord server. It's a free group, and there's a free access link that I have pinned right now in my live chat that'll allow you to pop in and join Zinks and Garbage Cat and 900 plus others who are part of my Discord community. Here it is, T Plus talking about the Jadeveon content right here. We talk general stuff, you name it. It could be a little bit of everything. Bobby After Dark typically gets a little, wild. Swag showcase. People always dropping things in here. Again, this is free to join. Click the link that I have included right now in my live chat. It's a pinned comment. And what I'll do right now, just in case you don't want to press that or you're in the Twitter space, I'll just go ahead and throw the Discord link into the live chat right now. Again, it's free. It's a 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports. And I would love for you to join the community. Guys, Sarah and I will be back tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. I am staring at a 5:30 wake up for a 6 a.m. class at a place called Sweat in St. Pete. I'm probably going to get my ass handed to me. I went and did like a high rocks on Saturday. It was brutal. So yeah, that's what's going on here. I hope you guys had a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed the home opener. I hope you'll come out and meet me wherever I end up being. I'll let you know what my plans are coming up on Monday night against the Detroit Lions. What's that? Monday the 22nd? That's the next time the Ravens are in action against a Detroit team that put up a 50-plus burger today on the Chicago Bears. So that's what we have to look forward to. Thanks to ProfitX for the support. Thanks to Preston Automotive Group for allowing us to give away a Kyle Hamilton signed jersey, which is what we did today to Wale, which was a pretty cool, not the actual Wale, but what's his name again? Wonder Wale? No, frick. What is it? Why am I forgetting? Help me out. Who won our Kyle Hamilton jersey giveaway earlier today? I'm having like brain rot at the end of the day. I think this was, who was it again? Son of a frick. I don't know why I can't remember. But anyway, Wildlife. Oh, thank you. Wildlife. I'm sorry. Wildlife. That's our guy. Anyway, PKB, I don't have time for you tonight. You're too sorry for me to give you my oxygen. So I'll deal with you. You'll get dealt with in the coming days. Like the video on the way out. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks to all of you for hanging around with me. Thanks to my patrons. Thanks to my channel members. Thanks to everybody. I'll catch up with you at 12 noon Eastern tomorrow with Sarah Ellison over on the Vault side of things. You guys are the best. Appreciate all the support and you guys allowing me to do this on a full-time basis. Enjoy the rest of Sunday Night Football. Later.